morning, new community. Let's stand right now. Let's just enter a moment of worship. Let's quiet our hearts. We're going to proclaim the name of Jireh this morning. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. Doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now.
Going through a storm, but I won't go down. I can hear your voice carried in the rhythm of the wind to call me out. You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown.
You've never been closer
Than you are right now.
Come on, let's sing Jireh this morning. Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. Forever enough,
Always enough, more than enough. Forever enough, always enough, more than enough.
always enough, Father. I don't want to forget how I feel right now on the mountaintop. I can see so clear what it's all about. So stay by my side when the sun goes down. Don't want to forget how it feels right now. Sing Jireh, Jireh, you are enough. Yes, you are. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance, 'cause you are Jireh, you are enough. Forever enough,
Always enough, more than enough.
you are.
Forever enough, always enough, more than enough.
You're always enough, Lord.
Forever enough, always enough. You're more than enough. Forever enough, always enough, more than enough.
I'm already loved, yes. I'm already chosen. I know who I am. I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved more than I could imagine. And that is enough. Sing it out. I'm already loved. I'm already chosen. I know who I am. I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved more than I could imagine. And that
enough.
I will be content.
I will be content in every circumstance.
You are
Jireh, you are enough.
ever enough.
Always enough. You're more than enough. I believe,
Forever enough.
always enough. More than enough.
Yes, you are.
Forever enough. Always enough. More than enough.
Yes, you are.
You're forever enough. Always enough. More than enough.
You're more than enough, yes. You're more than enough. 'Cause you're all we need. Sing your name is beautiful. Come on, let's sing Jireh. Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. We will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. You are enough. There's another in the fire. There is another one. You're in the fire with us, Father. There's a grace when the heart is under fire. When the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. Oh, never alone, never alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears a burden where another died for me. There is another in the fire. Another in the fire. Come on, let's sing All My Dead. All my dead left for dead beneath the waters. And I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. No longer a slave.
Should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning?
And I know
I won't bow to the things of this world.
and I know I will never be alone. Come on,
There's another in the fire right now, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding
can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between waves thin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. 'Cause nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us.
Thank you.
There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. And I know I will never be alone.
Come on in, CC. What do you know?
I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I count the joy come every battle. 'Cause I know that's where you'll be. Come on, there'll be another in the fire. You will be standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, count the joy come every battle. 'Cause I know that's where you'll be. I count the joy come every battle. 'Cause I know that's where you'll be. Come on. I count the joy come every battle. 'Cause I know that's where you'll be. I count the joy come every battle.
Here in the battle.
'Cause I know that's where you'll be. I count the joy come every battle. 'Cause I know that's where you'll be. Count the joy. Count our joy. Count it all, Father. You promised that you would be in the fire with us, Father. Your promises remain the same. Your promises remain the same. Promises remain the same. Promises remain the same. They never change. They never fall. No, they God of Abraham, you're the God of covenant, of faithful promises. Yes. Time and time again, you have proven that you do just what you say. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Come on, declare it this morning. Great is your faithfulness to me. Yes. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. Yeah. No matter the season, your faithfulness remains the same. God, from age to age, the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Yeah. Your history can prove that there's nothing you can do. You're faithful and true. Come on through the storms. Oh, the storms may come and the winds may blow. I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. 'Cause great is your faithfulness to me.
Come on, testify.
Great is your faithfulness to the rising sun. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. 'Cause great is your faithfulness to me. Oh, your faithfulness never runs out, never runs dry. Yeah. I put my faith in Jesus. Come on. My anchor to the ground. He's my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. Come on this morning. I put my faith in Jesus. He's my anchor to the ground. He's my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus. He's my anchor to the ground. He's my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. He'll never let me down. That's great. Great is your faithfulness to me.
When I look back over my life,
Great is your faithfulness to from the rising sun. From the rising sun, same I will praise your rising sun. From the rising sun to the setting, same I will praise your
every breath, with every breath.
From the rising sun to the setting, same I will praise your name. 'Cause great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness to me. No matter what the situation is, great is. Great is your faithfulness to me.
Morning by morning,
Great is your faithfulness.
mercies I see.
Great is your faithfulness.
Morning by morning, new mercies I see.
Right now, at this moment, I want us all to clear our heads. Every distraction that you might have walked in with, every chain that might be holding you down right now. Just know that as soon as you enter into the presence of the King, all of that washes right off. Any stress and anxiety that might be holding you down. Anything that can hinder you from experiencing the true presence of God. We're just going to be still right now. Where it's just you and God, nobody else. No distractions. God, you have our full attention. I don't want you to be worried about the person next to you. What's going on around you? Right now, let it be personal for you. Whatever you need to confess, we can do it right here, right now. Father, release us from sickness. Father, release us from the feeling that maybe we're not good enough. Release us from the feeling that whatever we're going through is bigger than you. Father, you are enough. Dear God, here we are. Sinners, but we're still yours. Father, right now we just ask that you clear it all, you wash it all away. We know you have a word for us this morning. you have a word for us this morning, Father? Father, what would you have us hear from you? We ask that whatever season we're in right now, Father, that you change something inside of us. Father, renew our spirits, Father. Whatever cup that's in here right now that's empty, Father, overflow it. Please don't hold back. We created this space to meet you face to face. So here we are. We love you, Father. We love you, Father. We love you, Father. We love you because you love us. We love you because there's nothing separating us from your faithfulness. Absolutely nothing. And that alone is so worthy of your praise. So once again, Father, meet us here. We pray these things in your wonderful, powerful, life-changing name. Amen. Amen. Thank you guys so much for creating this moment. You guys can be seated.
Thank you, Ethan, and the praise team. Sometimes we just need to gather either in person or virtually and just kind of declare some things to be true when it feels like everything is swirling around us. And to say that God is faithful and that he's true and can carry us even in the most difficult season of our life. Provides what we talked about a year ago, finding that unshakable place when everything else feels unsteady and very undependable, that we can stop and just declare the promises of God and his presence. Gives us a solid place to hold on to, so thank you. Before I pastored, I was a youth minister for a long, long time, and I was in one particular church, my first one, straight out of seminary, where I was the youth minister there for 21 years. And so you get to see a lot and get to know a lot of different kids. And then being there that long, you get to walk with them through a journey of their life. And there are dozens and dozens of stories. But one in particular kind of stands out because I think it's really helped me frame this season we're going to talk about this morning. His name was Chris. He had a sister, lived in an apartment complex not too far from the church, showed up on Wednesday night. And you hate to put labels on kids, but this was just a really rough kid. One of my college workers, and I don't know why, gave him the nickname Cheese, so we just called him Cheese all the time. He got into a fight on a Wednesday night that we had to break up, that some skateboarder shot through his skateboarding helmet, posted it on YouTube, and we had 1.3 5 million hits on that video. You didn't know I was famous, did you? I remember it being Cheese's birthday and going to his house. It was his mom and his stepdad. He wasn't living with his biological father. And taking him one of those big, giant chocolate chip cookies and a Target gift card, because I didn't know what he wanted. And Chris came out of the house, and I, in my most awful way, sang happy birthday to him. And I could hear through an open window his stepdad yell outside the window, "Oh, it's your birthday. Happy birthday." And I went, wow. That's what this kid faces all the time. It's just this lack of support, this lack of caring. Over the years since then, every once in a while, Chris has contacted me, and he's been in trouble with the law. He's been in and out of prison. He's tried to straighten up his life. His sister is currently in prison. And he contacted me a couple years ago and said that he was really trying to get his life together. He had gotten some of his kids. He was living with someone who felt like was really good for him. And his biological father did HVAC repair, and he was trying to start his own business. And he said, "Hey, could you spread the word that I'm really trying to get my life back together?" And I said, "I will tell as many people as I can. You understand you're 4.5 hours away, so I don't know anybody in my area that you would travel to come work on their HVAC unit." I said, "But I will let all the people know I could." He said, "Thanks, I appreciate that." And then I didn't hear from him since then. And so my heart breaks for him, and I don't know what to do to help him. He's way far away. There are a lot of things that speak into Chris's life that just don't help him live the type of life that he should. And there's no excuses. I don't want to make any excuses for him. Chris knows the things that he needs to do. He knows what his life should look like. We took him to camps with us. All the things that we did, Chris was a part of that. But for some reason, he's unable to overcome all of these outside influences in my life, in his life. And it just puts me in a really tough place because I don't know what more words I could use to help Chris move along to the life that he knows he needs to live. Which leads me to this third season that we're talking about. And this is something I stumbled upon a couple years ago that has really helped me understand what spiritual growth looks like. And in this season of summer, we're going to take the approach that spiritual growth is fields, not factories. Now, I'm going to unpack that a little bit because Jesus constantly used agricultural metaphors to talk about spiritual growth. That it's a seed, it's this bush, and we're going to hit several of those passages. But the problem is because we live in an industrial society and we kind of adhere to an industrial belief system, then we tend to hold on to a factory understanding of spiritual growth rather than a field understanding of spiritual growth. Because this is the way factories work, that you have this final product that you want to get to. This is what we want to produce. And then you design the factory for the factory's sake to produce this product. The factory is built around this end product. And then you run the thing down the assembly line, attaching all the things you're supposed to, making the tweaks, making sure it's within specs to plop out this product at the end. And if you grew up in the church or you spent any time in the church, you have been through the factory process of discipleship, right? Attend this 10-week discipleship course, this 13-step process of growing like Christ. If you adopt these beliefs, if you do these things, that out at the end of the process will pop out this perfectly mature, responsible Christian. We're laughing, right? Because we know that's not how it works. Being at that church as a youth minister for 21 years, Janet will tell you, we had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids come through youth group. And some of them turned out great, and some of them, oh, geez. This is how you know you've adopted a factory mindset to spiritual growth. If you've ever said these words to someone who was struggling, all you have to do is, anyone guilty of saying that? Because it worked for you, right? All I did was do this thing, and I practiced this, and I went through this book. Here, read this book. We struggle with a factory mindset. What happens is we press the beauty and the uniqueness out of how God designed us because we're trying to stamp out cookie cutter so everyone looks the same. This is really harsh, and I'm going to try to say it as soft as I can. We're basically producing Stepford wife Christians. Right? They all look the same. They all act the same. There's this like weird uniformity where we all dress, say the same words, do the same things. And I'll be real honest with you. People out there think it's a little creepy because they don't see an embracing of our divine uniqueness. They don't see God flourishing inside of us. They see the church factory producing a product. And so when we talk about summer, I want us to be reminded that Jesus said that there is this spiritual growth that happens with us that can't just produce a product. Because this is what happens in the church, and people feel this. When a factory produces a flawed or defective product, then you go back and you fix that part of the factory to fix the product. And so what we'll do is like, well, our youth aren't doing this, or our adults aren't doing this, and we'll go like, well, let's just tweak the factory. Like, if we can just serve the factory, then we'll fix whatever the product is. What Jesus was telling us in a field understanding and an agricultural understanding of spiritual growth, which is what summer is all about, that if there is something that you're struggling with, there are so many factors and so many variables built into the way that God designed the world that we may not be able to control. That our purpose isn't to produce an assembly line to produce Christians, it's to create conditions and an environment that would help the person flow the most. And then find out what else is in that process. The little bit of counseling that I do, when I sit down with someone, the first or second question I ask, usually the first question is physical ones. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you taking care of yourself? Because if you're not doing those things, then there's going to be effect to your mental state if you're not eating right, if you're not eating healthy, if you're not exercising, if you're not sleeping. But the second question I ask is, who else are you listening to? Because what I find out is they've got a friend that they've been with for a long time that's giving them advice that's not helping them at all. I think that's what's going on in Jesus' life, and I can't overpower that voice. And I have to accept that as part of what spiritual growth looks like. So we understand how plants work. I know I'm really plant heavy in some of the analogies and metaphors that I use, but Jesus talked about them all the time. We're going to dive into a chapter of Matthew that's got 3 different stories about plants. They're going to reveal to us some truths about what it looks like to grow. And I want us to get 2 different truths out of this. One is for your own life. Like why sometimes you do the things that you know you're not supposed to do, and you can't do the things you know that God has called you to do. But then also to think about as a body, as a church, as a community of believers, how do we relate to other people who live, look, struggle with different things than we struggle with? We all know what a final product is supposed to look like. We all know a good strawberry when we see one. We all know what a peach is supposed to sound like and look like and smell like. We know what healthy vegetables are supposed to look like. The problem is we aren't really that in touch or in control of the process that gets to that final product. And this is what happens in the church. We know what a maturing Christian is supposed to look like. And we think that if we just do the things, we'll pop out the product at the end. And so if you struggle in your own faith walk, maybe you need to change your mindset. And we as a community of believers need to make sure that we create a place that if someone walks through this door, we're not running them through the assembly line of what they're supposed to look like. So, I had it in my notes here, summer is coming. I think tomorrow and Tuesday, right? Like summer's already here. Summer is probably, of all the seasons, the most difficult, the hardest, the most intense. It's got the most amount of activity. It's continual nonstop effort. There's heat and humidity and bugs and weeds and heat and humidity. Did I mention the humidity? And so I want us to look at some of the teachings of Jesus to kind of help crack the code of how to live in the season of summer, of how to summer well. What does it look like to understand these truths, what spiritual growth looks like in our own life, and then what it looks like as a community of believers. A quick recap. We believe that God intentionally designed into all of creation this rhythm of ups and downs, this cycle of seasons, and we're supposed to learn to live well in those seasons. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we see this: for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. That hardwired into all of creation is this natural cycle of ups and downs, of producing, of cranking things out. And then there are times of stillness and of silence and of quietness. And that we have got to learn how to live into that season and not to feel guilty when we're not in the season we feel like we're supposed to be. That if things aren't blowing and going in our life, if we're not just really cranking it out, that we need to accept, like, I may be in a season of winter. It may not be a time in my life where I'm blowing and going and producing things. It may be a time for me to kind of just pull into myself, be still, be silent, and just full on experience the presence of God. So we want to remove the guilt that you're not the productive Christian like that person is. That you may be in a season that's different for you, and be okay with that. But there is work to be done in each one of those seasons. If you're in the season of winter, maybe it is that stillness. Maybe it is that silence. Maybe it's just that being and allowing God to do this really stark work inside of you. Maybe you're in a season of spring and it feels fresh and it feels new and you're kind of feeling that energy. The days are lengthening. It's getting a little bit warmer. You've got spring fever. And how to live best into those. We've got 2 messages from the past that talk about that. This morning, it will be the season of summer, right? It's hot, it's sweaty. Your laundry is twice as much when it's time to do laundry than it is the other seasons. You should have to wash everything all the time. It is a much more intense season. In Matthew 13, Matthew, the writer of this, put together 3 stories, 3 parables that Jesus told that give us a little kernel of truth about what it looks like to live in the season of summer. They may or may have not been taught in this order by Jesus. That's a moot point. All of the authors of the Gospels kind of move things around because they wanted to teach us truths. And so Matthew included these together because he wanted to make a point. This is what Jesus said spiritual growth looks like. So this first one I'm going to read is called The Summer Truth of No Control. I like to call it the parable of the stupid farmer. Matthew 13, 1 through 9. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. A large crowd soon gathered around him. This sounds really shallow and superficial. I so admire Jesus' ability to push through never being able to be by himself. Like, can you imagine, like, I'm just going to go to a quiet place and be by myself, and all of a sudden everyone just flocks right next to you. I would not be able to handle it as well as Jesus did. So he got in a boat. Then he sat there and taught as the people stood on the shore, and he told many stories in the form of parables, such as this one. Listen, a farmer went out to plant some seeds. As he scattered them across the field, some seeds fell on footpath, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rock. The seeds sprouted quickly, but because the soil was shallow, but the plant soon wilted under the hot sun, and since they didn't have deep roots, they died. Other seeds fell among the thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. Still other seeds fell on fertile soil, and they produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as that had been planted. Anyone who with ears to hear should listen and understand. Jesus was saying that in our spiritual growth, we have much less control than we think we do. We don't control the birds, we don't control the rain, we don't control the sun. And so in our understanding and how we grow, we allow more grace. Now, we don't wallow in this and going like, well, since I don't have any control, I can live however I want to. There is an understanding that there is growth that's supposed to happen. But in my relationship with cheese, I have to understand that there are birds that come and snatch some of the truth that I give him. That his soil may be much shallower than I think it should be, or that I wish that it could be. That he's allowing thorns and weeds to choke out. And I've got to turn off my factory understanding of want to tweak and fix and adjust and to get him to where I think he should be, and realize that in a field understanding, I don't have as much control as I want to have. And that's where all of us understand about that controlling side of us that makes us impatient. It makes us less grace-filled. It makes us more harsh in how we practice our relationship with God. Like I said earlier, if you've ever said, well, all you have to do is, or why don't you try this, then we end up with a factory mindset. And we end up worshiping the factory, the church, the thing that produces the product, rather than wanting what's best for the seed. You know who you are who gave me that one. Fields are less predictable. Fields are those things that we don't have as much control over. I mentioned this earlier when we gathered, that I've always been attracted to the Romans 7 passage where Paul said, and I said this earlier, the things that I'm supposed to do, the things that are true, the things that are honorable, the things that are right or pure, I can't seem to do those things. And the things that I don't want to do, the things that I wish were out of my life, I can't stop doing those things. And Paul is constantly reminded that it's not always in his control to be able to will himself to be the person that he wants to be. That he has to allow God to kind of do that work, to break up the rock, to remove the thorns and the weeds that are keeping us from growing. To summer well, to do the hard work of summer, that we have to understand there are forces of nature that are beyond our control. And our dedication is to the seed, to the truth, to what God wants us to know. And in the fullness of grace, and understanding that this is hard. I always said at this age, I would like to think I got to the point where I stopped saying stupid things and I stopped doing certain things. Janet will tell you, I've got a really long way to go. And I recognize that spiritual growth isn't something that I can grit out or run through an assembly line. It's something that I surrender to and allow that God to do that work in me. The second truth about summer, in addition to it's out of our control, is even more difficult, especially for those of us who are Christians. Those of us who follow Christ have a difficult time with people who aren't like us. Those people. What's wrong with them? And we watch the news and we read things on TV and we just shake our head and go like, why can't they figure it out? Why do they get it wrong? And those of us who are believers want a system that we can control. And we see it happen all the time. We say the words, you can't legislate morality. We have to. There has to be laws. But what you see even happening now, and I'm not going to talk about anything specifically because I'm not thinking about anything specifically, is that we have a belief of how the world is supposed to be and how it's supposed to work. And since people aren't getting there the way we want them to, then we just make laws to get them to obey what we believe and what we want. This summer truth is really hard, and it's the summer truth that the world, not only is it not in our control, but there are forces in this world that are outside of what we want and what we believe. And we have to be very careful in our words and in our actions and how we live. Still in Matthew 13, verses 24 through 30, we see this. Here's another story Jesus told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field. Of course, that's us, right? Whenever you read a parable, whenever you see a story, we're the good one, right? But that night, as the workers slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat, then slipped away. I think someone does that to my yard every night. Lewis, we're going to talk. I'll tell you. No, I was complaining about our yard. It's just a dumpster fire of garbage. And Janet and I were walking the neighborhood, and Janet goes, look, everyone else's yard is too. I go, well, there's a few that's not, but you're right. We all struggle. There's a person, Lewis, in our neighborhood doing that. When the crop began to grow and produce grain, the weeds also grew. The farmer's workers went to him and said, Sir, the field where you planted that good seed is full of weeds. Where did they come from? Right? How many of you have said that when you've watched the news? How many of you said that when you see it like, why are those people like that? Where did they come from? Who taught them? Where's their mama? We say those kind of things because that's what the good seed says. An enemy has done this, the farmer exclaimed, and this is what we want to do. Should we pull out the weeds, they ask. We need to get rid of those people. We need to fix them. We need to stop them. No, he replied, you'll uproot the wheat if you do. Let both grow together until harvest. Oh, I have to live in the world with these people. And then I will tell the harvesters to sort out the weeds, tie up them into bundles, and then burn them and put the wheat in the barn. This is where we as believers struggle probably more with other people than we do in our own lives because we think we're the good seed. Factories are closed systems, and we have a couple engineers who go here, and they know that when you're producing something, you can control virtually all of the variables in the factory. Lighting, temperature, speed, the specs of the parts. You can't always control the workers because you know people. But you can control all of the elements of a factory. And so in the church, we get this mindset that if we keep fixing, adjusting, tweaking, controlling, then we won't get any tears in our wheat. The problem is in a field mindset, which is what Jesus was trying to teach them, we don't have that ability. That there are going to be weeds. There are going to be things in the world that we aren't comfortable with, that we don't like, because it's an open system. God built variety. He built free will. All of these things he built into the world to make it a beautiful place. But also there is a downside to that. What this parable is saying is we do not possess the wisdom to know the difference between good and bad. Just because we ate from the tree doesn't mean we've got it all figured out, right? So we have to be very careful in our own spiritual life and in the life of others that we aren't too quick to judge. We aren't too quick to label something good or bad because we didn't build or design the world. It's not ours to manipulate and control. Jesus said that there's going to be things that happen in this world that we're not comfortable with, and we have to make sure in our field understanding of this, rather than a factory understanding of this, in our own life and in the lives of people around us, that we have to live more from a place of grace than we do a place of judgment. I'm still struggling with this with Chris. You know, it's like, Chris, if you would just, and then I go like, nope, that's what I did. And I have to be careful about wanting to pull the weeds out of Chris's life. Stop talking to these people. Stop going to this place. Stop doing this thing, because I don't have the wisdom or the insight that God does to fix it. The reason why I have this view of my yard that I do, and you may have the same thing, is I know I could spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year on a yard company that would come, a service company, that would come and treat it for all that kind of stuff. But when I look at the yards around me, I'd go like, oh my gosh, they would come and treat, and then all of your dandelions and chickweed and crabgrass and would blow back into my yard. So once I mow it, it's just a nice level green with 800,000 varieties of whatever it is in my yard. So I have to understand that I am not in control. One of my assistants 2 churches ago had these initials. I can't do the initials on the chalkboard in her office, but basically what it said was, I am not the CEO of the world. And I went, wow, I need to work on practicing that. A field understanding is that we can't control everything. There are going to be things that happen. We work on creating conditions. We work on scattering seed everywhere. And then allowing God to do the work, which brings us to this last truth. And that's the power of God to do the summer work. If you summer well, you recognize that all of your hard work is just creating conditions for God to do his thing. It's really God that creates the produce. It's really God's the one that makes things happen. We just get to be a part of the work. Matthew 13, still in there, says this. Here is another illustration Jesus used. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed planted in a field. It is the smallest of seeds, but it becomes the largest of garden plants. It grows into a tree, and birds come and make nests in its branches. Nowhere in there does anybody do anything to make that mustard seed grow into a mustard bush. The seed has everything that you need in it. And there's a power bigger than us that makes that happen. I have some plants at the house that are taking off. They're doing great, but I didn't make the plant. I didn't design it. I didn't give it its DNA. I didn't make it produce what it produces. I hopefully get to be a part of a little bit of a work of watching what God intentionally designed and made do this amazing thing. And so summering well in your own life means that there's going to be a lot of work that you put into your journey. There's a lot of work in walking alongside someone else, watching them work, but you don't get the credit for it. This same church that Cheese was in, Janet will tell you, we had a Wednesday night program that exploded. We went from 15 kids who were the kids of choir parents, because I started it during choir rehearsal, to 250 kids, and it was just chaotic. We used to have a sheriff out there every night because everything that was going on. Long story. But we baptized a lot of kids. I mean, like, a lot of kids. And this is one of the things that I constantly had to deal with. We, like we do here, allow friends, people who were close, to baptize the kids. And we had set up our Wednesday night program where there were overarching leaders and then there were small group leaders. We had like 60 or 70 volunteers who would pour themselves into their kids. And so a lot of times when the kid wanted to be baptized, they would turn to their small group leader or to another leader. But what happened was sometimes the leaders would fight about who was the one that got to baptize the kid. Yeah. And I would have to sit down with the leader and go like, yeah, I know you wish you could be the one, but they asked so-and-so, and we need to remember, it wasn't even so-and-so. It was God. And all of this goes to the credit of God, to the glory of God. Any kind of production, any kind of growth. So in our own life, if you've been able to conquer something, if you've been able to control something, you need to recognize that you didn't do that on your own. That it was the work of God within you. It was yielding, it was surrendering. Also, when you're walking with someone else and they are or they aren't, all you're doing is trying to create an environment that God can do that. It's on them. So don't take credit if it goes well, and then don't beat yourself up if it doesn't go where you want it to go, even though I still struggle with that. So we're going to run through some final truths about how to summer well, both personally in your own life. I want you to think about your own life, and then corporately as a church. The first one, summer is hard work. It really is. Your workload increases. There's a lot more stuff that has to be done. Sometimes you don't even know how to squeeze it all in. Like, man, I've got to cut the yard. I've got to trim the bushes. I've got to spray deer spray because they're coming and eating everything that I'm trying to grow. And so we have to recognize that summer is hard work. And so working with Chris, I've got to remember that. I've got to remember that there's a lot of work going into it, and I can't get upset about it. Summer takes courage. You're going to have to deal with some things that you don't normally want to deal with. I feel like I've mostly conquered this at the house, but at the church, if you've noticed, and Jerry and a couple of us talked about this, there is a lot of poison ivy growing around here. And some of it is, Bobby has told me, is thunderweed. And all you have to do is look at it and you break out. And we're trying to figure out, Jerry sprayed some of it over here. We're trying to figure out, like, how do we deal with it? Because I was super smart last year and went around the building and pulled a bunch of it down and out and then was just eaten up with it. So it takes courage and wisdom to deal with our own spiritual life and walking with someone who's struggling. Third truth, summer is not efficient and takes patience. In the factory, man, we're just doing this, right? Let's crank it out, let's crank it out. What's the problem? Growth doesn't work that way. I want to show you a picture from my backyard. This is a pineapple. We've got 2 of them that are growing. It's only about this big right now. When you start a pineapple plant, it's 3 to 5 years minimum before you get your first pineapple. And our first pineapple was bent and deformed and super tiny. And I think it'd been, at least 2 years, I think, since our 2 pineapple plants had produced a pineapple. And Janet and I were going like, do we need to save them? I mean, we're lugging them in during the winter and then putting them back out and then covering them up and then, lugging back and forth. Is it worth it? And then I told Janet early on, I said, I think we're going to have a pineapple. And then I said, I think we're going to have a second one. So we've got 2 of these growing. I couldn't factory produce these. I couldn't stand there and scream at the pineapple plant, grow, what's wrong with you? Which is what we like to do with people who aren't where we want them to be. But not only do we not get one, but every 2 or 3 years, maybe longer, it'll be, I don't know, September, October before we can enjoy this. So we're just sitting there, because like summer's when you want pineapple. Fall, I'm done with pineapple, So we have to recognize that summer's not efficient and it takes a lot of patience. Number 4, summer takes discernment to cooperate with God. This is what I talked about before. It is not our effort, it is not our wisdom, it is not our self-discipline that will help us to become who we want to be, or even someone else. It takes this understanding, okay, God, what needs to happen in this situation? How can I surrender myself and do what I need to do to create an environment and a culture that will grow seed to produce the 100-fold crop? Number 5, summer needs a field and open system in which so much is out of our control. If you are a parent, you recognize that you were not handed a blank slate, were you? You can't just download obedient, good, always listening, always respectful program into your child. It seems like they're almost preloaded with like resistance and attitude and all of those kind of things. And we recognize that in our own life, there are things that speak into our life that shouldn't. There are things that we can't seem to get a control on. And then in other people's lives, we recognize that we live in an environment where there's good and bad. And so there's a sense of grace when we work with other people. The last one, summer fields are about providing the healthiest environment. Factory is about control. There's a term that's come out of the factory mindset, and that's called quality control. And that is, every so often, they test something off the assembly line to make sure it meets all of the expectations, that it meets the specs, that there's a standardized project. And us in the church try to do the same thing. Are you doing this? Are you not doing this? And we have this list that you're supposed to measure up against to make sure that you're living the right way. God has placed us in an environment. And I'm really early for the first time learning this, and I feel kind of stupid for not knowing this before. Some of you already know this. You know there's growing zones? Like we are in 7B, 8A. There are certain things that can grow in our area, and there's certain things that can't grow in our area. And if you try to do it, you're just going to be frustrated. And so our understanding about the healthiest environment is to understand what the environment is that we're in, what's out of our control, and then do the most that we can, understanding your specific environment, to enhance and to create opportunities for people to grow in the relationship of God with you. So that means, what environment are you creating for yourself? For your own growth, to experience the presence of God and all of who God is. What are you doing for the seed that's planted that can produce what you want to see in your life? I want to catch you up on cheese. I'm going to show you what he sent me a couple months ago. He had been running from the law, and he sent me a message that said he was turning himself in to a state penitentiary in Tennessee, and he was going to serve at least 4 years, and he really wants to do better. And he sent me his address, and he said, "Can you write me?" I looked up the address, and I don't know if it's valid or not. I'm going to have to have Ed check. But I wrote Chris, and I haven't heard back yet. But I'm not giving up. Because I think he really wants to. I know that he wants to. He has maintained contact with me over the years. And as frustrating as it's been to walk with him and to know the things that he needs to do and how he needs to change his life, maybe this is it. And maybe it's not. But I can't give up. I can't stop loving on him. I can't stop pouring into him. I can't stop. I can't stop allowing God to speak into his life, whatever that looks like. That's what summering is. It's hard. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for those who have all the answers and have it all together. In your own personal life, if you are in a season of summer, there are some things that we've just got to realize. That there is a there out there for you. You know what you want your life to look like. You know where God has blessed you and wants to lead you. But know it's going to be a lot of work. And it's not all going to be up and to the right all the time. There are going to be times where, man, you just kind of fall into a season of winter where you need just to kind of stop striving, stop doing all of that intense work, and allow God to just feed you. Factories try to control. They try to create this uniformity to everyone be the same, and they suppress the beauty of diversity that God has scattered in this world. That our job isn't to get people to be like us and to look like us and to live like us and make the same decisions like us. Our privilege is to walk alongside people to get them to love Jesus as much as we want to love Jesus. We get to do that. We have to have a field understanding of what growth looks like, both with us and with this church. Let me say this. We are oddly excited about where God is leading New Community Church. We really are. We have 2 new staff people who are bringing energy and enthusiasm and passion and fresh perspective. You'll hear news recently about more things that are happening. And we believe that God is going to continue to do amazing things with this church. And we feel the Spirit moving through this place and God leading us to new and fresh places. And we're holding on, and we would love for you to be a part of it, whether you join us virtually or whether you join us in person. And we may be coming out of a winter, and we may be seeing a little bit of spring, and we know a summer is ahead of us, and we're going like, okay, let's get our gloves, let's get our tools, let's get a good, healthy understanding of what summering looks like well, and allow God to do the work that he has done in the past in this place. And we know that he's got planned for his future. And we would love for you to be a part of summering at NCC. This seems like a contradiction. In the fall, you will see a lot of our summering. It's just the way that God works. We'll let go of our control and do the work of cultivating and bringing an understanding and a sense of God, doing all of this work into this place. Which is what summering well looks like. And we would love for you to be a part of it. Let's pray. God, in this place, we recognize that we have been scattered on this place to be a part of this great work that you're doing. That you are calling all of your children back to you, and we get to be a part of that work. And so, God, we thank you that you have given us the knowledge, the wisdom, the insight, the tools, the desire to be a part of this great work you're going to be doing. Now give us the energy. Give us the perseverance. Give us the grit that we can roll up our sleeves and join in the work that you're already doing to produce a 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold crop as you bring this community, this county, this area, into an understanding of what it means to fully live for you. God, we thank you we get to be a part of this. We thank you that you've given us this calling. Give us the courage to take that step to do what we need to do. And as always, we pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation. Let it all go, and I see it now. I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. So I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon. My soul needs a friend, so I run to the Father again and again and again and again. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption, price for my heart. And I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need before my first breath, running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. So I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend, and so I run to the Father again and again. So I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend, so I run to the Father again and again and again, again and again and again and again. We run to the Father again and again. Oh, oh, oh. So I run to the Father, fall into grace. Done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a searching, soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again, again and again. Oh, 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 again and again. So we run to the Father.
Just know that you have a Father that is sitting on the front porch with his arms wide open, expectantly waiting for each of us at any time in our life with whatever it is going on to run to him, and he will scoop us up and pull us in and love us and then just pour whatever we need into us. We have that a promise. We have that assurance. That's why we gather in this place. It's constantly to be filled up again. And we want you to know that. We didn't have a time this morning where you could gather at the front and be prayed over, but we want you to know that you always can approach us. If you want to talk to one of us after the service, if you want to email us this week, we would be more than glad to be available to serve you in any way that we can, to help you with whatever it is that's going on in your life. We have some announcements that we want to hit. We are starting something in June. Every second Tuesday, we are going to gather for a concentrated time of prayer, of meditation, of worship. We started this with the Pray First campaign, and this will be something that we will carry on once a month through the summer till we get to August, where we will do another campaign. Be in the student room, but it'll be very informal. There'll be childcare, but a time for us just to spend time in the presence of God. The next thing is we are helping our Burwell teachers. We discovered that we had a school in our system that no one had sponsored. And so we gladly embraced our Burwell school, and we are doing $10 gift cards to the teachers. You'll see the tree in the lobby. We would love for you to be a part of just loving on those teachers that work with our special needs kids in our community. Also, there's a reception for Bobby after the service at the coffee spot. Obviously, you've seen that Bobby hasn't left, but she has stepped into a new stage in her life as far as work. But we want to let her know, and we want to give you an opportunity to just lavish her with gratefulness for all that she's given to this church for such a long period of time. It's right after the service. Also, you have seen on the other side of the lobby the display, the table that you can sign up. It's a women's ministry event on June 4th, the Women of Worth. It's called The Hats We Wear. And there's going to be an emphasis on stories on the different roles that women have to play and get to play in their own individual lives. There are an amazing number of women who have signed up for this already. I was blown away. So if you haven't signed up yet, make sure that you sign up in the lobby. If you're watching us virtually and want to attend, you can call the church office. Lastly, we would love for you to be a part of what's going on at NCC in an investment kind of way. If you are a regular giver, we want to say thank you. You help make all of this work. If you're not, there is no obligation to do so, but maybe this would be a good opportunity for you to kind of make your commitment to what's happening at NCC something a little bit more tangible. And so we always encourage, well, there's a variety of ways that you can give. You can get through the app. You can give the old-fashioned way. You can autograph. There's a variety of ways for you to be a part of what we believe are some exciting things that God is doing. If you have a prayer request or you want just to give us some of your information, there's connection cards in the lobby, but there's a way that you can scan the QR code and then fill out that form and send it to us, and we will pray over that need this upcoming week. I think that's it. Stand. I'm going to give you a blessing, and then we're going to go love on Bobby. May you, in any time of your need, feel the comfort of running to a God who is waiting expectantly for you. Have a great week. We'll see you.